Hello, hello, hello. We have a special guest today. I'm getting into it because I have a drum roll. Some of you know him as the king of the ghetto youth. Some of you know him as, Mr. Propaganda, King Kandoro. Yes, we've got King Kandoro here on Galen Skies. I feel like I'm failing to find the words, but King Kandoro, welcome to Galen Skies.
Thank you. My favorite title is Maita. That's my favorite title.
How's my doing?
It's incredible.
Sorry, I feel like I'm becoming over familiar because I always follow you guys, and I was watching Prodigal and you're like my. I was like, oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, it's that's what we call it. I mean, we call him a lot of different things. Yes, we have to actually now reduce all those names because he has to know his name now. But it's Maita, my, German. It's a lot of names. It's a lot of names.
Yeah. But how are you doing?
I'm incredible. I feel good. Thank you for having me. Very excited to be back on the podcast.
Yes. No, we are excited to have you, and we've got quite a few things to talk about. Before we get going, just in case someone is watching or listening to this for the very, very, very first time, this is Galen Skies podcast with me, Natasha. I normally co-host it with Xolie, but Xolie is at home at the moment, so we've got King Kandoro. I was about to say standing in, but King Kandoro as a guest. If you're checking us out for the first time, we would appreciate you following us, and we've got 100+ episodes that you guys can listen to. And before we get into it, just a brief summary of our previous episode. So episode 101, where I shared my Twitter swindler story. Twitter swindler story where someone on Twitter swindled me out of money in 2018.
Wow, serious? Yeah. First of all, congratulations on 100 episodes, guys. That's amazing. 100 episodes is not a joke, so congratulations on that. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well done. Tell me about this Twitter swindler 2018. What happened?
No, so I was reporting with Senna from 6 Rates last week, and I said to him that it was at the time, guys, be fair to me. It was at the time where, Twitter was kind of like becoming a thing. Well, for me anyway, I kind of started tweeting more in 2017, and it was when I still thought real things can come from Twitter. That I really thought real relationships, like real honest people with integrity. So listen, I thought I was, and I hadn't met this person in the physical realm, but I had faith. I thought, look at this guy,
Wow.
So
was this a real person?
I think so.
Do you still see them on Twitter?
No, actually I don't. I haven't seen them on Twitter in a long time. But they were a sportscaster. So they used to commentate on Highlanders, Caps United, like in Zim. And so kind of check out that episode. Check out that episode. And again, shout out to Senna from 6 Rates for joining us. And as always, guys, check out their pod. And then moving over to politics, I briefly wanted to talk about politics because last week we talked a little bit about the fallout from the picture that was online with Thokozani Coupe, with Welshman Mube and Bebe and all that sort of stuff. But this Sunday, the 20th of February, CCC, the new political party, had their first rally in Highlands in Zim, which was really well attended. there was a sea of yellow. And I will say I was actually quite impressed, because I remember I was talking to my aunt, and I was showing her some of the footage, and she was like, wow, like when did they announce the new part? I was like, I think it's been less than a month. And actually just to see that many people, I thought that was quite interesting. I think Nelson Chamisa looked quite energized. And going by social media, it just seems like there was a lot of energy. But Kandoro, I just wanted to ask, like, how hopeful / excited are you, or are you sort of are you approaching it with caution because you're like, Zoom?
I always approach it with caution, but like my thing is, it's always conflicting for me because there's different ways to look at it. First of all, I look at things as a comedian, then as a Zimbabwean. It's always in that order.
Comedian lens.
As a comedian thing, it's always exciting, because it means there's going to be catastrophe. There's going to be content that comes from that. It means there is something to talk about. There's, as the host of a show, you always want to have as many alternatives as possible. So this is an exciting alternative. It means there's a chance for them to right the wrongs that they committed in the earlier previous establishment. As a Zimbabwean, I am excited. I am excited for an alternative that can have another go at ZANU-PF, because nothing remains. There's no constant, I believe. Like, there's nothing that will remain the same. At some point, we don't know what point that will be. Things do change. So I'm excited. It's the new guys look like they are very energized, which is normal for any new establishment. It would be very worrying if they were coming in with a very lackadaisical approach. But yeah, they seem the color yellow is exciting. Which, to be honest, apart from the name, I'm almost like about it. I get it, but I'm also like, but the color, I don't know who came up with that, but that for me was a stroke of genius, because it's something that I haven't seen spoken about. But again, maybe it's the comedian in me, because I immediately saw yellow and I started thinking about ZANU-PF, because ZANU-PF employs national flag colors. And when they are printing t-shirts, primarily the t-shirts are either yellow or green. Doing CCC using yellow, it means ZANU-PF can never use yellow again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it means that there is an opportunity for like ZANU-PF, if they do yellow, they can't even give the room to say, a sea of yellow. They can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So it's trying to see, I would love for it to have been a conscious thought to say, because ZANU-PF has been the one that has been removing options all this while. So to see them flip the script and say, okay, we're going to take away the color yellow. I don't know whether that was a conscious thought, but when I saw it, I was like, ooh, I like that. So, and now to kind of reclaim, because red, for lack of a better term, is a very violent color. It comes with so many connotations, even far removed from political. You know how when we were growing up, we used to get told, "What's up, red? You're not on it, man." Things like silly things like that. It just comes with a lot of connotations that are yellow is very friendly, it's bright, it's happy. Shout out to Fadza Mahir. I don't know how much of a hand she had in that, but I would love to think, those are the kind of things that happen when you put incredible people together, and it's exciting.
Yeah, but she obviously did have a hand because the yellow campaign is what you know, it was her tag when she was running for MP as an independent in Mount Pleasant. I literally feel like, well, I don't feel like it's been supported. There's evidence that it's been a copy and paste job almost. So, and I'm not going to mention this person because you know, as an avid starter in the morning listener,
I know the person. I know the person that you want to say, but again, let me before you say his name, it's okay to say his name. I personally don't have beef with the guy. We have ideological differences of how, like, he's not on the same level as I'm cool. Like, if I was to meet him, I would like to think, because his wife is one of, like, she will send me a message like, yo man, this is dope, right? Objectively speaking. I don't have, like, we don't have each other blocked on social media. I don't have, like, from time to time, he will say something that I'll be like, oh, that's dope. But more often than not, he will say something that I disagree with. But objectively, it's just, there are people that I genuinely physically dislike, you know. But I'm cool with him.
Yeah, but you guys used to rip him.
Well, I would like to think we're objective, but I would like, but you know, it's objectivity is subjective, you know. It's a very subjective matter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can see the hand of that team, and I was always a fan of what they did with the yellow campaign and everything, and you know, but I'm a biased party.
Yeah.
With my but no, so I thought that was interesting. So we'll see what happens with that. But then just another point, someone, you know, hit me up after our episode last week, because we were talking about the whole people being upset about seeing Welshman move with Thokozani Coupe and Bebe and that whole sort of thing, right? That was happening. And I'd highlighted some tweets that I had seen where people were like, oh, you know, at the very least, leadership should explain what it is that they're doing, because people feel like, you know, Thokozani Coupe has not helped. However, someone made a point that I thought was quite helpful. I'll see if I can bring it up, but I'll try and remember it. But the point that they were saying was, well, actually, you know, if you are going to get real change, you do need the opposition sort of having different stars, as it were. So, in the sense that they were saying, even regionally speaking, right, people like Welshman Mube maybe recognize some of the structures that Thokozani Coupe has. Obviously, there's a question around motive, intent. But I think the point that they were saying was, if you look at the history of MDC, of opposition, a lot of it started in Matabeleland. Like, you wouldn't talk about MDC without talking about Gibson Spanda, and a lot of people who it really started there. But obviously, because they recognized that they wouldn't have the national appeal, right? Yeah. That's why it had to sort of go to Harare, as it were. But actually, if this new CCC sort of allowed these people in Matabeleland to kind of sort of come together, and sort of put a bandage on the on the bleeding. Because I think what's happened in that region, there's a lot of apathy, and there's a lot of, and I think MTC Alliance or whatever, their approach, their Matabeleland strategy has just been horrible. Actually, ZANU-PF has been better in Matabeleland in terms of the candidates that they fielded, in terms of local awareness. And actually, it just kind of gave me pause to be like, okay, don't just look at the Thokozani Coupe and just and think, because she actually does have structures, And if there's a way that it can help CCC, then actually that's not bad.
So it's a complicated position to be in. But there is no doubt in my mind, absolutely none whatsoever, that anyone who is serious about winning elections on any level cannot involve Thokozani Kupe. Let me explain why. It's not a Thokozani Kupe thing. It's not, I'm using Thokozani Kupe as the name that comes up in my mind when it comes to political flip-flopping.
Yeah.
Currently.
Yeah.
Right? So it's Thokozani Kupe, it's Linda Masarira, it's your promise. There's, I'm forgetting his name, but I don't want to say the wrong name. But
yeah, there's someone I'm thinking, but I don't want to say the wrong name as well.
Yeah, I don't want the wrong name. I think his surname is Mkwananzi, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's who I thought.
There's a gang of people that have infiltrated the national dialogue but offer nothing. And when I say offer nothing, what I mean is they almost serve as a distraction, right? I think you remember previously when I was saying mistakes that had been made. With the CC, it's an opportunity to. The terrible thing about the CCC is that they've had to start with the current structures that they previously had in the MDC setup, which means that your BTs are coming as deputy vice president. There's three setups. It would have been dope. I mean, they don't have this opportunity to do this because time is against their side. They don't have the funds. But it would have been dope to have an opportunity to have a very lean team, probably 10 executive members, where it's just president, deputy president, secretary general, until these things are resolved at the Congress or something. What I don't appreciate about what our politicians have done, and I've spoken about this when I do stand up. What I don't appreciate is, I don't know what Madame Kupe stands for. Like, I know she's been a huge part of our democracy project since Morgan Chang, but I don't know what she stands for. Same case as so many other people that are in the MDC. We have career politicians who, in the best interest of the country, if you genuinely, which is a very idealistic thing to say, I recognize it. But the reason why I feel like when you were saying just now, Matebeleland, they've been marginalized, and the worry, like when I think about it, is let's have a situation whereby we don't try to create allegiances based on, Kupe has structures or whatever. Because I promise you, Kupe, Ngube, young people don't care about that. Like the people that could have potentially voted for those people, either in Harare or Bulawayo, those are not the kind of people that you're not going to put Madame Kupe and Ngube on and get young people excited. Because the people that they were meant to serve in 2005, they didn't serve. They're not excited about those. It's the same thing as Tendai BT. We like that he's the boss and what, but really the people of Harare East, they're like, this guy, we haven't seen this guy. It's things like that I would very much want a situation where our politics move into a merit-based candidacy system where candidates flog it out, not a situation where we put people by default. Where right now, if Madame Kupe was to be admitted into the CCC, right, it means it means by default she is the running MP of whatever candidate that she isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That means we are denying a 25 to 35-year-old candidate who is exciting, who is vibrant. Have you heard Ostalo speak?
Yes, I have.
Ostalo speaks like he wants to fight someone. but that's how exciting he is. That's how passionate he is. I wouldn't, I don't think he's violent, but that's the kind of fire that he wants. You don't want somebody. The last video that I saw of Madame Coupe is this bit the pot. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, what is this?
that was, but actually the bit the pots thing is the one thing I will give. I will give Thokozani Coupe. Well, to be honest, the one thing I remember that where she mobilized people and but I take on board what you said. I think what I would say.
Explain to me the bit the pots thing. What is I didn't get it. Maybe it's the video that I watched out of context.
No, it was basically about GBV and then also about unemployment. And I think it was about 2016. I think it was the time of this flag and everything. And basically, I think the women marched from wherever to wherever, but it was just basically a protest that, there's no jobs and the burden on women and the like. I think that the only thing that I would say with the whole CCC structures and whatever, and I take on board what you've said about the excitement and all that, but I think just when I was saying with Matebele, and this is just me as an observer, is that where they've gone horribly wrong and where they've put people off is because they've fielded candidates that are not local to places, right?
Yeah.
And because people have been so focused on removing ZANU-PF, right? People just vote MDC, because it's so will you vote MDC top down, everything. But then people are now wising up and turning around and saying, this councillor isn't from here, doesn't know anything about here. Whereas with ZANU-PF, they have the skill of, going to the headmaster who's been a headmaster for 15 years at a local school. And then people turn around and be like, okay, ZANU-PF, but we know this man. We trust this man. Oh, this man has a tuck shop. So they are very in tune with local politics, whereas MDC hasn't been. And some people have received that as being arrogant. And what makes it even more complex is I think Thokozani Coupe was also even fighting that within. So if you see even the candidates under MDCT in those marginalized regions, they're almost mirroring that ZANU-PF local person where CCC hadn't. And literally, if they continue that way, they're just going to continue with people being apathetic and people sort of saying, well, no, we're no longer going to just vote for you, because if a councillor and MP comes into a region, because corruption is ripe in Zim, right? Even if they are CCC, MDC, they're still going to, give a contract or make it easier for someone they went to school with. Then people will turn around and be like, you're not giving local people what opportunities. So then it becomes tribal in its nature. It's quite a complex thing, but people actually need to learn from ZANU-PF, because that's what ZANU-PF, because if we look at the figures, I think Zenzele shared it on Twitter the other time, that in 2000, like literally MPC won 21 out of 23 constituencies in Matabeleland. 2018, it was 49.5%. Like it keeps going down because people are just like, well, no, we're not going to support CCC, MTC. So I just think that would be just my, if those people are listening, would just be, politics is local to some extent. But I think it's a moving picture. I think
they need to do that. They need to do that everywhere. You need to do it's obviously complicated because you have to politic at some point and place your best foot forward, but they do. I think the CCC has an opportunity to first with this by-election to kind of stamp their entrance, but throughout the year to kind of figure things out in terms of like just figuring out their candidates. I hope they stick to their word where there's, they're speaking of citizen consensus and things like that. It's exciting, but it's one thing to say something, it's another to do to go the other way. So it's definitely going to be an exciting year politically. I think we're in for a ride because ZANU-PF is definitely not going to take this lying down. I'm interested to see, and like you're saying, with ZANU-PF, I've always argued this. I think I remember having a heated conversation on an episode of Saturday in the Morning that never saw the light of day. When I was arguing the major difference with ZANU-PF and MDC then is that ZANU-PF, for all its faults, has an ideology. And that's the reason why they have managed to survive. And their ideology is like with ZANU-PF, they almost flip-flop. It's not clear, but earlier days, they were leaning on heavily Marxist, they almost, there's you can track their identity to say, okay, whatever China is trying to do, that's what we're trying to do. Whatever these people are trying to do, they have always argued the whole Pan-Africanism thing. They've always argued for, let's give people land. And MDC's identity has been, let's remove ZANU-PF. And you can't go on that, because now when people, that's the biggest thing that people use to discredit you. Because these old people that went to war will sit you down and be like, so what is your MDC saying? And you can't really, the same way I know they have these documents, these smart documents, these HOP documents, but beyond, cool sounding acronyms, you need to come down with policies that can be reduced in something that people can quote. It's the same way that, like right now, somebody who doesn't understand politics or is far removed from politics will tell you, no, ZANU-PF is saying Zimbabwe will never be a colony again. What is as corny as it sounds, that is something that somebody can run again, because they'll go and argue like, no, if you vote for CCC or Chamisa, he's trying to make you a colony. But then if you interrogate that statement, right? What has China done to Zim in the past 10 years? Have they not basically made Zimbabwe a colony?
Yeah.
All these investments, all these monies that have so it's now we need our politics to argue on an idea base where if somebody from CCC's marketing or communications were dismantling these things, it can't just be we need new leaders. ZANU-PF must go. It can't just be that. It can't. It needs to be, okay, Zimbabwe will never be a colony. Okay, what about this? Or we've given people land. Okay, what about this? Dismantling those things and moving away from that to even say, okay, this is what we would do. MDC has never sufficiently and adequately explained the land issue. If you ask them, they'll tell you like, no, we don't want to reverse land. Okay, then say it loudly. Explain what you want to fix, because you guys have spoken about, okay, we understand that LGBTQ rights is a hot button issue and cannot be, which given the opportunity, it almost feels unfair, right? For the CCC to be the people that be at the brunt of that, because the realities of the Zimbabwean realities, we are well aware of the issues that come, even in first world countries. Democrats and Republicans struggle to answer those questions, right? These are established economies where that answer will not cause anything, any ripples in the Nigerian. But it's still not an excuse for the CCC to not explain that. Where do you guys stand with LGBTQI rights? What will you do differently? How are you going to protect? They shouldn't stay away from it like it's a question that's going to derail their campaign, because it's not. It's honestly not. Give these people an answer that will allay their fears and excite them in a way that leads them to the water bowl. So there's certain things that they've kind of tried to maneuver their way out of. Apart from, trying to say ZANU-PF must go, I think let's get into the cracks of, okay, guys, apart from us being a yellow, what, this is our president, this is what, this is what he stands for. This is what we're going to do. Another thing that they have, it's so weird how all the things that ZANU-PF seemingly gets away with, MDC, they've become these tripping points for the MDC / let's just call it the opposition.
Yeah.
Because like in ZANU-PF, no one bets an eyelid when somebody is inseminated from nowhere and just placed in a position. No one bets an eyelid. No one will ask like, oh, where did this person come from? But there was an issue with Fadza Emaere's appointment. Oh, what has she done to deserve this? And you're like, man, you're just misogynistic. Like, are you telling me you don't understand why Fadza Emaere has been appointed?
Yeah.
The spokesperson, like, come on, don't be dumb. But it's those kind of things where, at the same time, they need to explain their thinking when it comes to these things.
Yeah.
They need to explain, okay, we are putting BTS vice president. Why? Because at this point, it just seems like you're just giving him a post so that he doesn't make noise. Okay, what's the situation with the Secretary General? Where are you guys? Things like that. I want that for them. I want them to give us new politics that excite us and actually move people away from this, oh, I'm on the fence, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But I mean, on the other hand, if you're on the fence, I don't know what type of Zimbabwean you are in, but yeah.
Oh,
I honestly don't, because politics is one of those things not where I think the moment you recognize something is wrong, you don't need anybody coming to you. I mean, it's a bonus for somebody to come and tell you that, oh, these are my politics, but you know what the issues are.
Yeah.
It's a bonus to have somebody who will come and convince you to say, oh, this is what it's a bonus, but the things that are keeping you up at night, the things that are waking you up early. No one needs to tell you that. And if you're fine with it, then you're fine with it. If you're not fine with it, do something about it.
Exactly. So, I think on there's an analogy that I used to make a long time ago about Zim. Listen, I understand the reservations people have and the concerns that people have, but I've always said that in Zim, our democracy is not at a developed stage where we can say we have 4 political parties. We have the the pleasure of just picking. And for me, it's kind of like almost being in prison, right? And then you're in prison, but then you're complaining that they're not giving you ice cream in prison.
Yeah. It doesn't come with prison.
Let's get out of prison first.
Yeah.
Like, let's get out of prison first. Why are we in prison complaining that they haven't, we don't have ice cream? Because in Sweden, that's what they give their prisoners, But at the same time, I will say, I think with CCC, MTC, it's because this whole ideological thing, there's a lot of mirroring the West, which is not relevant to them. So
it's actually
progressives, but
it's actually a con. It's the one thing that has been used to delegitimize their political identity. Your puppets. they just call you puppets because you haven't been able to develop your own identity to be freestanding. Look at how, look at how, and the thing with the political identity is that it's really not that difficult to decide what kind of, but I guess when you yourselves are like with the MDC, they had one leader for a long time. So most of their identity and ideas rested in one man. And we saw what's wrong with that, right? But take a look at South Africa, right? Look at the EFF, look at what they're doing. Little by little, they're carving a way for themselves. With each passing week, there's just as much to say, let's give EFF a chance as there is to say, can't trust these guys, which are mistakes that young parties will make. But it's about staying in the conversation and controlling as much of the narrative as you can, right? Because these people are fighting against political juggernauts in the form of the ANC. The same with ZANU-PF. Their identity is liberation politics. You can't fight against that.
Yeah.
You can't, because sentimentally, you just can't. There is no convincing some go from wherever she is that you can't.
Yeah.
These people were, they took us from Ian Smith to, there's no, that level of nostalgia is, at this point you can only pray for more ZANU-PF mess ups, right? But what I'm saying is build on those moments like the rally, where at this point now, right? It's the rally happened yesterday. Today, social media should have been abuzz with snippets of Chamisa's speech, right? Clippings, put those everywhere because social media is with you. Public sentiment is with you. Take that to your advantage. Why do I see more GoFundMe links than speeches to what you guys are saying? Why is that? Why is social media populated with links of you guys asking for money? That in this political climate, it's normal because where else will you get the money? We understand that, but I want to see the messaging populate. Let me see messaging. You know how the EFF, they don't miss a chance to put out a press statement. They don't. Somebody farts in parliament, there's a press statement on it. There's a press statement on it. Yeah. That's the kind of messages. Be on beat, be on beat. Right now, did you see the screenshots of ZBC where it says Chamisa promises violence?
Yep.
Combat that, because ZBC was transmitted to no less than 2 million homes last night. So those are 2 million homes that potentially were not at the rally that have seen, oh, okay. You're not going to have that same kind of reach, but correct the narrative. What was actually said, that these people are linking to violence and whatever. So I want to see the energies transferred and put into.
Yeah, I completely agree. I want to see the same thing. I have not seen a clip to Chamisa's speech. I've seen when he was singing about yellow and jumping. I haven't seen the actual speech. Like you're saying, be on beat, have the speech, put captions.
Yeah.
Go viral on WhatsApp.
Have somebody doing sign language on the speech.
Exactly. Have it go on WhatsApp. I mean, in Zim, if there's a sex tape or something, it doesn't take 80 minutes for the whole country to see it.
And more importantly, with these speeches, never let Chamisa go off script. We know he's charismatic. We know he's a brilliant speaker. There is no reason anyone should leave that to chance. Right? Let's channel that energy. Let's bottle it up. If it means practice, if it means having a teleprompter, because what they realize now is that the pressure that they had with the MDC, it's doubled now, because people don't realize this, right? Like late last year, the most frustrating question that I saw, and that would also frustrate me, was the whole Chamisa doesn't have a plan thing. Because apart from the actual plan that they had, I think it's just a ridiculous question to ask. Just
why?
In general.
Why?
Nat, the context of that question is being asked is, what do you mean? Like by that I'm saying, you who's asking, does Chamisa have a plan? What do you mean? Like, what kind of plan do you want to see? In the context of what has happened, ZANU-PF has managed to take away this man's political party's fund. That's $1 million something. They've taken that. They've managed to take away the party headquarters. They're in the process of taking away the name. They're in the middle of, it's the same as witnessing an accident. Right? It's the same as witnessing a head-on accident where somebody survives, and then you are asking that person, like, okay, so what are we going to do? Like, it's an unfair question, because there's nothing these people are going to say that is going to be satisfactory to what you want to hear. It's unfair on that level. And two, it's dishonest. It's very intellectually dishonest, because none of us have a plan, because we haven't seen this kind of political animal before. We haven't seen this political animal. Robert Mugabe was a let's beat them and go home guy.
Yeah.
Right? Where had we seen this kind of lawfare happening? Where had we seen MDC and all its facets dismantled in the way they were dismantled from the Constitutional Court, right? Right up until we had never, people were so used to political leaders being arrested and beaten up. I mean, there was still that, but like to be dismantled in that way, where everything you're trying is failing and you're still losing money on top of that. Like, you owe people money that are going to these courts on your behalf.
Yeah.
Right? To ask someone, like, what kind of plan is very dishonest. It's not a realistic question. But even factoring that in mind, there is no way these guys don't have things that they are thinking. As we now realize. Because clearly this CC thing cannot be something that they thought of last month. Yeah. It cannot be. Because if you realize CCC was a name that was said from 2018.
Wait.
But back then it was still Chamisa Chetechet.
Do you think that they engineered that? Because they got it in the psyche. Chamisa,
yes, so exactly. So that's exactly what happened, where CCC ends up being an easy sell because it's already in the public domain.
Yeah.
So Chamisa Chete, which is why I was saying initially it's almost a con, because you don't want your party to have the Chamisa Chete connotation, because that's not democracy. Like, it's a con, but for the purposes of winning elections, right? It's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. Them not announcing, you start seeing certain things. So, and if you notice, there's no one asking if the MDC still has a plan, if the CCC has a plan. But the worrying thing is that they haven't shared their plan. So were your questions genuine questions, or were those questions that we ask because we want to sound smart? You see,
can I answer?
Yeah.
No, I'm with you, but I think those were questions just born from frustration.
But that's what I'm saying. Let's recognize that we are frustrated.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing. I want for us as a people to be honest enough to recognize and admit. Because it's like in a family, right? It's like in a family. You as a family, especially big families, you don't go anywhere if there's a lot of passive aggressiveness. You're going to be sabotaging each other. There's going to be somebody who comes up with an idea. They're going to tell you it's dumb. Let's admit, like, okay, guys, when we were doing that, that was born out of frustration. We were not genuine. But we see, because if we are all interested, I would love to believe every citizen of Zimbabwe is interested in the democracy project. But we need to recognize that, okay, we are frustrated right now. We're angry. Nothing is going to come out of this anger. Let's take a step back. It's the same thing that I would say with Madam Kupe. She's been through a lot. And it's almost, what she's doing is almost like, imagine if Kupe resigned when she didn't get the MDC president's name. Like, just say like, yo, Trangirai didn't respect me enough. There's obviously questions of sexism when he appointed, when he did this. Now you guys also don't respect me enough. Let me collect my things. Let me go home. I'm interested in the democracy project, but I recognize that you guys don't want me to have my place in here. It sounds terrible for me to be suggesting that for her alone, but again, I'm using her name because she's when it comes to people that I'm frustrated with politically, she easily comes up to mind. But her, Ncube, all these, because not for lack of a, these are people that offer, I might be oversimplifying things, but there's a lot of people that offer nothing in there. It's like Doug Coulter. What do you offer?
Doug is a lawyer.
No. His father, David.
Oh,
David. David. His father.
Doug.
Oh my goodness, I love. I'm sorry, Doug. I'm actually. I'm sorry, Doug. But it's it's like with David. At this point, these are those the alumni, the MDC alumni. Like the family. Be there where. If we are interested in the democracy project, if we have good intentions, good, healthy, non-self-serving interests, commit your energy to amplifying and channeling the new. Because we honestly can't still be the people that were part of the first MDC split in 2005. You're telling me they're still vying for positions in these new political disputes? Are you like, come on. Like, come on.
It's mirroring
come on.
Unappear.
Exactly.
But I mean, Washman Ncube had some interesting things to say on Trevor Noah's interview. I think he's quite a sharp guy.
All of them, and imagine how incredible that energy was being put to mold a younger, energetic Washman Ncube. A younger, energetic Thokozani Kupe, a younger, imagine finding your Fadzai Maheres, your Ostalos, your Tererai, like finding those in the grassroots, plucking them from, Ngulube, from Luveve, from Mabuku, finding that new vibrant, that people that are coming from that know, okay, we don't have water in my book. I know this because I didn't have water this morning. Right?
Yeah.
People that know, like, for no matter, these people have not been successful politically, but they are very successful in their personal lives. Right? They don't relate to the common problems that we have. These are people that drive in the latest Toyota Hiluxes and they don't know what a pothole is because they can just speed past it. So
yeah. No, I am enjoying this. I'm enjoying this, and which leads me to ask, when is propaganda coming back?
Oh,
the people want to know.
It's coming back soon. It's coming back soon. We are working on. We're just trying to map the season now. Me and the guys are currently doing research on what we want to focus on in the in the season. We'll hopefully do 10 episodes, but I'm very excited. It's looking like there's going to be a lot more, election focused conversations, because just recognizing that, like the conversations that we have in Zimbabwe as Zimbabweans about elections are very simplistic. We oversimplify things to people just saying, "Oh, ZANU-PF in Riga, or ZANU-PF Riga." I'm like, come on. I mean, we talked about this in the previous season, where we did an episode on elections and tried to, but even after that, we realized, like, oh man, even in this episode, there's so many things that need to be dismantled. So talking about issues like, we throw around words like voter apathy. Ooh, Zimbabwe has a problem. Like, what is? I mean, is it really voter apathy if somebody can't afford to go to the voting station? Mm-hmm. Is it really voter apathy? If not just affording, like getting the combi, but they can't afford physically because they're hungry. They just don't have the energy of, like, it's not possible to tell this person who has a vending store to suspend their operations for this day so that they can stand. Is it really voter? So it's those things that we oversimplify, and they end up more often than not coming off as offensive to the people that are part of these, these realities, where there is an issue where young people are just not interested. But what are those percentages, right? What are those percentages versus people that would want to, but the information just doesn't reach them? Because just look at, being on Twitter is a privilege. And then being able to be on Twitter consistently, where you are posting. We are trying to shape the season to talk about, to try to do a deep dive on, issues of, food aid. Where does that play? We're probably going to talk a little about, like, just the concept of naming, like, naming political parties, because if just the thought that, why did it take so long for Chamisa to dump the MDC name? And then you start thinking about, it's the same reason why Fadza Mahere probably lost the Mount Pleasant MP election, because that it's a brand. So when you are now cognizant of the fact that MDC was a brand, it was a political juggernaut, what does that mean for the CCC? Because we're talking about familiarity on the ballot paper, right? I remember somebody saying to me, at the time I was very distracted, and I think about this very, very often. I remember somebody saying to me when the CCC was announced, and they were saying, like, man, Zimbabwean politics is ridiculous. Why does the CCC logo have Chamisa's face on it? I was like, bro, what is this enough? Like, I didn't think about it at the time, because I was very distracted. But the thing with these kind of questions, they kind of stay in my head. And then when I got home, I was like, man, I should have. It's those kind of things where this is not fashion and fabrics. You have to have, because people in Kitsiatota or Zimbamaramba are not going to know about CCCC on the same level as me and you on Twitter know about it.
Yeah. But
when it has the face of this man, it's going to, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And when you think about it now, even, it's not even deeper, but alphabetically, CCC comes first.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
It comes way before MDC. It comes before. So even if they were trying to trick you, you now have top billing. On the ballot paper, your name comes first. So these are the kind of things where you're like, okay, the guys are making good moves, but is between now and 2023 enough time to get the MDC brand on par with the pre? So those are some of the things that we're going to be kind of like just trying to dismantle, and obviously, other issues, like election financing, talking about education, particularly in the pandemic era, what that's been looking like. It's been a sorry state. The state of mining, possibly, there's issues there. De-dollarization. Are we really de-dollarized? Are we, where are we going? Because passports are being paid for fully in US dollars, but on the same, teachers are still getting, nurses are still getting their salaries, and, so it's a very exciting season. I do hope we get an opportunity to put out our thoughts in a way, because the thing with propaganda, it's all about trying to start conversations in a way that is healthy and conducive to have conversations.
Yeah, no, I am looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to seeing someone appear on propaganda.
I'm looking forward to it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we were talking about, like how politicians will say, we'll focus on, things that aren't really not important, but things that aren't bread and butter. So yeah. I was watching The Prodigal Son for the second time this weekend. So this time around, I was actually watching it with my aunt. And you say something where you're like, like politicians will be like, you deserve better healthcare. You deserve better roads. And you're like, we know. Show us how. So I think, first of all, I wanted to talk, I'm so excited about this segment. I hope I contain my excitement. Why I wanted to have you here. So you guys will know King Kandoro. He had his very latest stand-up, The Prodigal Son, which you did live in Harare last year. I know you did like a Bulawayo version, but then the one that was filmed was in Harare. And I'm correct in saying it's your second, because the first one was conspiracy theories, right?
Yes.
And this was your second. And honestly, I'm not just saying this. I really enjoyed it. I'll always tell you stuff. I'll always
thank you.
I really enjoyed it. And what I loved about The Prodigal Son is just, you can literally see the growth. My type of comedy, stand-up comedy that I like is your Trevor Noah, your Chris Rock, people that say something, you laugh, but then people that say something, you're like, actually, like Chris Rock, you'll remember that he says there's a difference between being an N-word and a black person. There's certain things that he says that you'll remember. So I'm a fan of Paul Mooney. I don't know if you're familiar with Paul Mooney.
I mean, if you're a fan of Dave Chappelle, you know
Paul Mooney is he is offensively brilliant. Rest in peace, Paul Mooney. So that's my type of politics that makes you think. And more recently, Dave Chappelle. So like with Dave Chappelle, when he started out, I was okay with him. But then now the Dave Chappelle that makes you think. And he weaves a story, and that's what I saw from The Prodigal Son, personally, just how you started, and just the whole. No, I absolutely loved it. I loved the themes and the fact that you're not. I mean, you've always not been afraid to talk about politics, but I think just the way that you that you did it. What I wanted to ask from you was, I know there's some people who are watching who, are big fans and watch The Prodigal Son. What was that process like? Like, when did the idea come about that, okay, this is what I'm going to do? Considering that we're in a pandemic and, things were, not clear. But so when did you have the idea, and how long did it take for that to materialize? I'm interested in the process of making The Prodigal.
To be honest, I don't know when. I know when I decided to do the show, but so the thing with the pandemic, right, is that it gave us a very unprecedented time with our thoughts and feelings, and like, you know, we were devoid of any kind of like, so I spent a lot of time with, you know, it was just me and my wife at the time, and I was in a foreign land. So you're having all this, it was a very unique experience to be in, you know, gave me time to kind of like just go through, you know, kind of like retrospect, oh, this is what I've done. It was an opportunity to look back. And then my son came along, that shifted dynamics. So the prodigal son ended up, you know, it definitely, I think the thought had already been there. I would want to do something like that. But suddenly when I knew for certain that I was going to Zim, like as soon as we locked in those travel plans, I was like, okay, now that I know, but it also wasn't, there wasn't a pressure within me to, because throughout the pandemic, whenever I had a funny thought, I would write it down. So these things would come to me very sporadically. Like my wife would say something and I would say, like, you know, the things that I say, she said to me, she actually did say, like, not, and that's been the fortunate thing about me stand-up wise. I've had so far, I've had the fortune of never having to come up with a joke. And what I mean by that is with comedians, and sometimes you can tell as an audience, like, okay, this is a joke that's been, somebody has come up with that. Like when somebody's talking about, you know, there's certain experiences that we talk about that almost feel generic, like, oh, you know how you guys, you women do that. I'm like, this is a generic, like most of the things that I talk about are things that have, not most, in some shape or form, they've happened to me, either me or to my family, and I've been told the story or I was involved somewhere. So when it comes from that place of this thing happened, when the story is that solid, right? The results are almost guaranteed, right? So now the struggle, the responsibility comes to, okay, how can I make this story mean more than it actually is? So you find like that smooch, that ice cream story happened to me in 2018, right? And I've told that story before, but now in the context of this show now, it meant more because the implication now it's linked to a story about my ancestors. It's a story, you know, what was important with the prodigal son is trying to ask myself, okay, in the past 2 years, what have I learned? Who have I become? That's where the name Prodigal Son, this is a story about coming back home. There are questions to me about, you know, religion, about my place as a son, as a father, finding my footing. Where am I? These are my insecurities. You know, that story about my family consulting a prophet, that actually happened. But it was a story, it was now, okay, how can I make this story mean more? Mm-hmm. Because it can't just be a story. I can't just be standing on stage clowning my family for your guys' laughter. That would be cruel. Yeah. You know, if that story had just ended up, being a ridiculous story about us, I don't know what my relationship with my father would be. But he appreciates the fact that he's being used in an analogy about ZANU-PF fuck-ups. Yeah. So it's like, okay, I can let this one go. you know, so it's things like that. I and with my stand-up, I always try to let the ideas go wherever they go. And like right now, I would just be writing like, okay, this is okay. Whenever it happens, I don't know what the year will bring, but at some point, these things will just fully form, okay, this is where we're going. This is, and then it ends up being something like conspiracy theories. It ends up being something like Prodigal Son. Mm-hmm. But thank you so much for it's very flattering to be in that conversation, because I really look up to everyone that you've mentioned, and I hope to one day be in a position to, be in the same room with those guys.
You will, which is why I have
Thank you.
on the podcast now, because I realized that yesterday's prize is not today's prize.
Yes. No.
So I
but
said,
you guys will always be family, so.
Kandoro, hey! Those ones where you're like, and aside, I won't mention the person's name. Let me just say my fave. I think you'll get who I'm saying. So I was trying to have them on the podcast. This is a while back. So I hit them up. Hey, I was like, oh hey, like, oh yeah. You know what? But you know what? Speak to so and so. They have a diary. And then it took me another few months.
Wow.
But so I was like, I have to get you. Okay, but I just want to go back to the writing process, right?
Yeah.
I saw that your wife put up a behind the scenes, like where you had all these sheets of paper and you're actually writing. So what's your methods? Like, look like you are physically writing. Do you physically write, then you type out, then you put on your phone? Like, what's the writing process? And also I'm interested in the length of time it took from first draft to when you kind of felt like, okay, this is it.
So the reason why I write jokes so that I remember the form that they are funny in. So when I'm writing it down, it's not so much that I'm writing down the jokes, is that I'm writing it from memory. So like right now, I'll have like something will happen, and then from the premise, sentences will just, and the problem with me is that I get overexcited when something is funny. And if I don't write it down, it ends up shifting because I end up finding a new punchline. So when I write it down, it's to tell myself like, okay, move on. We've gleaned all we can from this. Let's put it down. This is how this joke exists. Let's move on. And the reason why I write down on, I don't know where I am now, right? Because I used to write down on paper because it felt real to write it down. Then I would, with conspiracy theories, all of it was written down on paper. And then with this one, I wrote it down on paper, then I typed it into my computer. And then when I was typing, I was like, yo, this is so much better. Because the thing with typing it now is that if I change and thought I can just backspace and whatever, the thing with pen and paper is that it looks messy. And then with it just looks neat. So I probably, and it's there's a danger with losing paper once you, but it felt very old school, just writing it down on paper and whatever. But it probably exists as a mixture of both, maybe just thoughts that I have written down, scribbled wherever, then put down on, because I like the concept of having like just a script from the top down. But most of these jokes were written at different points. So the thoughts about my son, like, oh, that came at a different time. The thing with my wife, where the writing mostly comes, it's how to make this a seamless story. How do we, how do we link? Because everything existed individually. So the stuff about that thing about 3 big blessings, there were not 3 big blessings, they were just things that happened to me. I was like, oh, this makes sense, as because that's what I actually realized. You don't, initially when I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, this is where, so everything ends up going where it's meant to go. The bit about Mbuyane Handa, I wrote that about after the Blawayo show. The bit about Nick Mangwana was freestyled on stage. The bit about, the first thing that I probably wrote was the bit about the royal family. That happened as soon as I got to England. I was like, man, this is ridiculous. So the thing about the whole royal family, Meghan, that was probably the first thing. And, the whole, ancestors' electricity, because that actually happened. Electricity actually went. I was like, what is happening? So it's those kind of things. It was just now a matter of, course, I don't like when people say like, oh, I'm about to do milk jokes now. Oh, I'm doing ZANU-PF jokes now. Or they kind of like announce I just want to hear the joke and almost be caught unawares and almost, oh, okay, this is ZANU-PF now. Oh, okay, I want it to be a proper journey where if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you're still having fun, because this feels like a well thought out show. I want it to feel like, and I've always enjoyed comedy that makes you feel smart at the end of the day. Yeah. Where you look at the person sitting next to you and you're like, you're not funny, you're not laughing because you're not smart, in an arrogant way. That's how I've always, because like when I watch some of these people, I'm like, oh, I got that because I'm also intelligent. So I've always tried to replicate that, where it's, there's different layers. And some of the things that make me really laugh are things that, because of the way the show is written, only I could possibly get. Like I'm realizing now, like there's something that it wasn't even intentional. But I wish, there's two things that I wish I had done with Prodigal Son that I had been conscious of, but they were accidental. The first thing is the whole how far thing.
Yeah.
That went out of it. Like it wasn't supposed, like the way it kept popping up, that was intentional. Really? That was, yeah, like it was just supposed to be a once-off joke about that whole how far thing. But, if I had been conscious of it, it would have been dope. But the other thing is, if you realize the show is almost like it's a story about growth, personal growth, or personal changes on a fundamental level, right? Because I start the show by saying the whole how we speak thing, the whole how far, the whole music, what hip hop means to me.
007.
Right? Yeah, exactly. That's how I say it. And that's how I speak, right? But if you notice, there is a juxtaposition with the David Chifunyise joke and the Tanto Wave joke, where I say David Chifunyise always said, to punctuate sentence. If you go watch it again, even before I start that sentence until the middle of the show, I'm punctuating every sentence by saying, Every sentence.
And did you mean to do that, or?
So it wasn't a conscious thing, right, that I did, but it's now speaking to that thing where when I was writing the show, these are things that I was writing into the show, but I failed to explain it. I failed to explain it adequately because I wasn't actively conscious of it, to say, this is the extent of how I've changed. Do you get it? Like, I'm coming from when that didn't apply to me then, but because of my life experiences now, I'm part of those people that punctuate these sentences by saying, because of all the things that have kind of happened to me. But at the same time, it still hasn't changed who I am. So it's almost like a thing where, from the outside looking in, you think these things dictate who people who speak like this are meant to be these people. But here you are speaking that same way, but you're still this person, So it's things like that where you're like, I was pleasantly surprised when I realized when we were editing, I was like, oh, snap. This is how, I wonder who else is picking up on this.
Yeah. And one of the, so like I said, I was watching it for the second time with my aunt. And literally we were having, so that your DSTV joke, I felt it on a personal level, because I was one of those people, because I was raised by my grandparents and we lived in a plot. And by the time I was like, DSTV was becoming a thing, all the young adults had flew the nest. So it was literally me and my grandparents. They didn't care as long as they had ZBC, or like my grandfather would listen to BBC World Service on the radio. DSTV, what? An extra bill. So, and I would always be like, I want DSTV. But like you, anytime I'd go to my cousin's place, generation, I would sit in front of that thing.
Passions.
And what, even the adverts, so literally when you were saying it, I was like, this is my life. And then when you go to school and then people talk about it, and then they talk about, oh, remember when this, and you're like, yes.
Exactly.
I love it. And funny enough, so it caused a bonding moment with my aunt, because she had a similar experience where for some time, because of the school that she was going to, because she went to convent in Bulawayo, so she lived with her grandmother, right? Because it was sort of nearer, it was easier to do. And then she would go to her parents, my grandparents' weekends. So her gogo didn't have TV, right?
Oh,
but then
so coming to you was her come up.
So coming to her parents, my grandparents, was the TV. So she was like, she would watch everything, Santa Barbara, everything. So by the time she went back to school, and because she was going to a school with white people and everything, then she would talk about, oh, Cruz did this or whatever. So we had that bonding moment where I was mine was DSTV and hers was just simply having a TV. So I thought that was fantastic. And I wanted to ask you about the bearer's check joke. How was that moment when people just started singing along?
It's goosebumps. Like you. So let me tell you a secret, right? Let me tell you a secret. The only way the DSTV joke was going to happen is if people sang along to the bearer check song. That was the only way. That was the basis of the DSTV joke. There was no other way it would have happened. It was only going to happen if people had sang. If they hadn't sang, because it was meant to create a moment where there is people who sing and people who don't, because they don't get it. So when I was thinking of, because the DSTV joke happened in Bulawayo, it happened in Bulawayo on the 22nd of December, which was Unity Day. So when I entered the show, I was singing, let's preach unit. So I had written it into, the DSTV joke was a response to that, because I knew people were going to sing back. But now it was the 24th, I couldn't do let's preach unit. So I was like, you know what? When we get to this point, this Nick Mangwana point, what comes first? When we get to the Nick Mangwana point, I'm going to, whatever I say is going to lead me to sing that Beera Check song. And depending on the reaction, it was a beautiful moment, because you always, I don't know if you know this, but every comedian is almost envious of musicians, right? Mm-hmm. Because with musicians, man, it's that feeling of having people sing back your music to it. It will never happen with jokes, right? It will never happen with jokes. And the thing with music is now they have a cheat code where these people can perform the same song at 20 different festivals. With you, you have to kind of fine tune it depending on which audience you're doing it for, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So
to have those little moments where the audience is kind of singing back to me, it's kind of like, oh, it's nice. It feels good. And it's an incredible feeling also, because it means people are paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it means people are paying attention. They are with you and they understand what is happening. So it really was a good moment in the show.
No, I enjoyed it. And then I mean, you talked about it, where you talked about your three, struggling with your faith, and then sort of like trying to rectify it with the three blessings. I mean, I thought that was so beautiful. So we had that, and then the ancestors bit. And then when you talked about the fuel shortages, I was just like, how genius is that? And then you linked it with then talking about, I like the fact that you weaved in, like Europe, UK politics, and the point that you said about the Dominic coming 3 hours.
Yeah.
And
it was very confusing to me. That was my entrance to British politics. I still remember that weekend. I was very confused.
No, British politics is something else. And my aunt said this when you are saying how, with African politicians, they'll literally, the corruption is just, they don't cover it. It's just there. And then we were reflecting and we were like, well, it's kind of like with UK, where the politicians are like, I'm not sure if it's a party. I'm going to wait for someone to tell me if it was a party. Whereas in Zim, they'll be like, yeah, it was a party. So
they will tweet the pictures themselves, like, we had a party. Where you guys were home. Shame. We were at a party. It's ridiculous. It's very ridiculous. But yeah, it was a joy. I can't quite remember a more beautiful moment than performing. I'm very grateful to Blawayo though, because I don't think the show would have been the way that it ended up being without the show in Blawayo. And I've always, for different reasons, and so many reasons, Blawayo is a very special city to me, because my wife comes from the city. So in I feel that's what some of my people, they have, like, that's the nickname.
Yeah.
But creatively, it's special to me because I still remember I have a friend of mine before my first show in the city back in 2018, who saw a poster and said, I see that you are going to perform in Blawayo. I wonder, like, what are you going to perform? Like, this person is not in Zim. They haven't been in Zim. They'd never seen me perform live. So their impression of my comedy was based on the few clips that I've seen. And I asked them what they meant. They're like, oh, it just seems to me like your comedy is more Harare comedy. And it really gave me thought. Like, I was like, man, I don't know whether to be offended. So when I went to the city, I was cognizant of that, right? I think subconsciously it even made me move things around. I was very conscious of that, and I went and performed. I still remember how the city embraced me. I will never forget that performance. Like, there was a lady in the front who was almost falling out of her chair. You have those moments where you're like, am I this funny? Like, the whole room was erupting. It was such a beautiful sight. I felt validated as a comedian, because now I knew that in my mind, prior even to this, I was like, man, I don't think I do Harare jokes, because I think being funny is, you should be universally funny. I think the jokes, I didn't write any Blawayo specific jokes to go there. I just carried, because I believed the stuff was universal, and I got that validation. So, and then I went back again. I think that year I performed 3 times. And it was the same result every single time. And I remember one of the guys from the city was like, man, we don't even get this kind of reaction here. But it was, so I've always had that special relationship where, even when I was preparing for conspiracy theories, I went and, did a show there, but it wasn't a proper show. So with this one, I was like, yo, my people, you deserve a proper show. Let's do this. It gave me an opportunity to see the show from the back end, to be like, okay, we've done the show, which is what comedy, which is what you should do anyway. You're supposed to go on tour, perform as many different places as possible, but we didn't have that kind of luxury. We didn't have that kind of time. It was in the middle of a pandemic. So, but the response, like, these people would have laughed, even they gave me that, it was incredible. So the show on the 24th, 20 was so much better because of that. There's nothing that I removed, but there's so many things that I added and moved around to be like, okay, this feels incomplete. This feels okay. Let's all right. The show is done. Let's take it to you, and I'll forever be grateful to them for giving me that opportunity.
Yeah.
Always.
No, and I like the fact that I think you had Jaha.
Jaha
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
As your opening act, and I think you had
yeah.
like a few musicians. And I just wanted to ask, what role does music play in your art? Because it really comes across the way you champion, some of these acts. And like, for example, when I hear that 007, like, I just think of you, because I think of it on Sunday. Like, what role does it play?
Huge role. If I wasn't a comedian, I'll probably be a struggling artist. I'll probably be trying to do something music-wise. I'm grateful I figured out what I'm good at. I'm very grateful for that. But I've always been a fan of music. That's my earliest and some of my fondest memories are from, are accompanied by music, from urban grooves to hip hop. Obviously, because of where I grew up, I was mostly exposed to local music, your Radio 3, from Radio 3 FM to Poi FM, I could recite, when I was in high school, people knew to come to me to get the correct lyrics of songs. Like I was that encyclopedia, like, no, that's not what he says. He says A, B, C, D. I knew every song that needed to be known. I've always been a fan of music. So now, being able to do this now, it's kind of trippy, because now I come across the people that I grew up looking up to, and they say like, yo, man, I enjoy your stuff. I'm like, what? I don't blush very often, but in those moments, I promise you, I remember bumping into Trevor Noah at Zinfest, and I know Trevor Noah, but he sees me, he's like, Madorofia. I'm like, what? So it's things like that. Like I've met at different points, your people that I used to still do look up to, your Tech Fires, your Leonard Mafumos, all these people that were incredible in shaping a young me. So now to be in a position where I'm like, okay, if I can in whatever little way, these are the people that I enjoy now, genuinely enjoy. I love me, Tanto Wavy, Votes, JT, your Sokoma Temais, your, Pro Beats, In fact, crazy thing, I don't know if people realize I've never done a show without Pro Beats. Like, from conspiracy to, like, my relationship with Pro predates, like, from the first Madurifia social. That's how much of a fan I am of that guy. So it's that thing of our relationship is so intricate now, where it's more like family, right? Yeah. Where if you come to a show that I'm doing, especially these ones that are meant to be televised, you're going to find Probe, even if you don't see him on the poster, he's going to be there somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's those things where I'm like, in whatever little way that I can, in a way, because I'm still trying to do my own stuff, like in a very selfish way. I'm still trying to promote me, but there's nothing wrong with trying to drag one or two people along, because you never know, you never know what, and I would hope, Kuti, they do that for somebody else. And I've seen them do, incredible things for. So it's like just trying to create that chain reaction. I grew up, the in a space where you really have to go out of your way to be unkind and selfish, you know, if you grow up in an area, kusina, you know, majuraho, like where people are literally shouting at each other over and sharing everything they can, you really have to go out of your way to be stingy, because where are you getting that from? So it's just trying to share that love, trying to, you know, make each other shine brighter, you know, try to help wherever I can. But most of it is really just selfish. It's like, you guys need to hear what I'm hearing. Because I mean, like, you hear 007, you're like, how is this not a national song?
Yeah.
Like, how is this not a national song? So that's really, yeah.
No, I love that. It kind of reminds me of, like, if you look at Dave Chappelle's crew, he's always kind of brought the same people: Donnell Rawlings,
exactly.
Paul Mooney when he was alive, even though
Jeff Ross,
exactly. Like, it's kind of just bringing, and I'm sure he kind of looks at them and he's like, Donnell, you're so funny, because to me Donnell Rawlings is funny. I don't know if you've ever checked out his stuff. But
what do you mean that? What do you mean? I am a, so if there is something that I know in life, it's Dave Chappelle. Like, I am a ridiculous Dave Chappelle fan, and by that I mean the first time that I saw Bill Burr was in the Chappelle Show. So people don't even realize, people will go back now and be like, oh snap, that's, if you watch that racial draft skit, that's Bill Burr. If you watch those DICE championship, he's there in the, if most of the guys that I know from hip hop, I saw them first in the Chappelle Show. So you're from your, you know, Charlie Murphy, Donnell Rawlings as Ashley Larry, from like Paul Mooney as Nostradamus, you know, from even what was I going to say? There's quite a few names that you're like, oh snap.
Lunel, wasn't Lunel part of it?
Yeah, so it's but from that, even Chappelle Show comes after, you know, killing them softly, after I came, you know, because I enjoyed Killing Them Softly for what it's worth, and then came the Chappelle Show. So that time when he was off, I was starving. I've watched almost every Dave Chappelle interview that is available on YouTube. as soon as it's available, I'm watching it. I follow the guy. Let me tell you, I follow the guy that is Dave Chappelle's official photographer.
Oh, I mean, that's standard for any fan.
so that's where I know, like, okay, Dave will post this later, but
I've seen it.
I've seen it. Okay, this is where Dave is going. You know, so even now to your micro shares, you know, it's incredible. And when you make, to a great extent, I've always tried to replicate the good things that I see in Dave Chappelle doing. So like, okay, how can I? Because it's being a fan now, it doesn't necessarily mean like we are agreeing on everything that you're doing. There's some things that I'll be like, hey, my God, here is this. But you know, I like to believe that he has had more moments in the light than in the dark, as all humans should strive to be. We all have our dark moments or our failings. Some failings are more public than others. I've been fortunate enough, like when I fail, it's me and my wife. She knows. My wife will see people who are saying, oh, Kandoro is incredible. And that day, particularly, maybe she's not feeling me because I've said something stupid. And she's like, if only people knew. So, you know, things like that. But we've had, you know, they are in the public sector. So it's things like that where the music, I see what is done with these guys. It's just trying to replicate that same formula. If we come up, we all come up. Kevin Hart has also done the same. You know, his guys are, but I also want you to see that it also comes from a place of selfishness where you're like, I want you guys to do well so that you don't bother me. Because if you are the only person successful in a crew of 8 people, like what's going to happen when misery befalls these people? They're going to come to you because you're the guy with the Netflix deal. But if these people have individual Netflix /HBO /Comedy Central deals, they will figure their own situations out.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of thinking where you're like, man, let's place each other in positions where we all do well.
Exactly. And I like the fact that you've talked about crews, because it leads me to talking about who I want to talk about, Trevor Noah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm a fan of his soft friend crew. I don't know if you know, like he's friends with this guy called Kaya Anele, Sizwe, and
Kolisa.
Like I have been so I've been following those guys for years, and literally like every year they'll make go to America, they'll do this, and I'm like, oh my, they probably like speak maybe a few times. I'm making assumptions, I don't know. They probably speak a few times a year, and then they come together. I'm like, in my mind, I feel like I should be friends with them. I don't know.
We all do.
I feel like I should be friends with them. But obviously, I'm sure they've supported each other in various. But I just like that they're all doing well in what they do. So I want to talk about Trevor Noah because I am a big Trevor Noah fan, right? And obviously, Trevor Noah is probably one of the few Africans that I know that literally they've gone clear, as the young Brits would say. Like he's A star at this point. I'm correct, right? He's A star, right? He's hosted the Oscars.
There's you don't go more A star than that. Like you don't go more A listed than that. Like Trevor Noah. But I was, a fan of his comedy. I remember when he was sort of starting out. There's a time when he used to come to the UK, and I would go to these small clubs where Trevor Noah was performing, and I just always loved that. He would talk about Southern Africa, and everyone that I knew, I'd be like, watch this guy. And like you, I like the fact that for the most part the comedy is clean. Like it's like I was saying, like I was watching your comedy with my aunt. Like sometimes you stand up, I'm not sure if I can watch this with the family. But I've always liked that about Trevor Noah as well. And obviously fast forward to now, he's the host of The Daily Show. And I mean, what big shoes to fill, like with Jon Stewart, him coming on there, and it shows his intellectual muscle and everything. Yes.
But I used to see some things on social media. I don't see it as much, but where the sentiment used to be, and particularly maybe from Southern Africans, right? It's like, oh, I used to like Trevor's old stuff. I don't really like his, because obviously like a lot of the newer, I haven't seen the latest one, but it was obviously, obviously he's been in America for a while, and it was, to a more international audience. You can't really talk about Zuma when only like 6% of the world knows who you're talking about or whatever. But so I kind of saw the sentiment. It's kind of like, oh, I used to be a fan of the old stuff. I'm not really a fan of, and it's really coming from us. When I say us, Southern Africans, sort of like his home base. There is a lot of celebrating him, but I do see that like, oh, I miss the old Trevor. Oh, Trevor sounds different. His accent. Oh, like that sort of stuff. And it just kind of made me think about, as a people, how do we allow someone to go clear, to go A-list, be global, celebrate them, and accept that they've evolved from the content that drew us in. I mean, how do we do that? And is it something that you sometimes think about, even with your work, in terms of, I always have to this is my base crowd, because I feel like those people who critique him aren't allowing him to evolve. And I think there's a separate conversation around talent pool and how talent is nurtured in Africa. Obviously, South Africa is much more developed than Zim, for example, right? But if Trevor Noah if his content has changed, that's fine. It means that there should now be room for other people to take up the space that he was taking, to give that political critique, that political comedy. But I thought you were the best person to have this conversation with, seeing as you are a comedian as well. So yeah, just your open thoughts on the Trevor Noah story.
I honestly think I'm the best person to ask also, because I'm a huge Trevor Noah fan. Mm-hmm. So Trevor Noah and Dave are the two people that I've tried to model more Trevor Noah than Dave, to be honest, because if you notice, the stand-up propaganda is really trying to throw your head in a hypothetical ring, just in case they ever thought this is my audition tape. But it's an interesting thing, right? And the short answer is really there's no way to do it. There's no good way to do it. And it's not really an African problem. Even if you look at Kanye West, how many people say I miss the old Kanye? As an artist grows, they are going to. There's no kind of way to say this, but as fans, we are entitled, right? There's people that I know that used to support me when it was just 150 coming, and then as soon as they started feeling like I had gone, there's, Kandoro, there's a few messages that I didn't respond as quickly as they would have wanted, and then there's always that on any level. So much worse the Trevor Noah level, where you ask me whether it's something that I think about. I do think about it, but I also don't think about it. What I mean by that is when I realized that comedy was the thing that I was good at, I started thinking about the best way to go about it. And the best way to go about it for me was to go back to Zim, because I figured this out when I was at Rhodes. I was like, yo, let me go do this at home because I want to grow with my people, because that's what I felt Trevor had done. I said, I want to grow with my people. I want them to say, this is our guy comedy-wise. And then from there, I can go elsewhere, because whatever I encounter in the world, I want my people to say, yo, take care of our guy. This is our guy. We are sending. I wanted them to get, it's still a work in progress. Sometimes we've won battles. That's the reason. That was the idea with conspiracy theories. That was the idea with Prodigal Son. To get to a point whereby nationally people say, yo, this is our guy. Bring your guy, we bring our guy. Because that's what Trevor did with Daywalker. Trevor became their guy. The reason why people saw Daywalker in Zimbabwe was because people were sneaking in DVDs of the Daywalker. We didn't know who Trevor Noah was, but people were like, the Zimbabweans in South Africa were being sent home on December, like, yo, take this, go show your people. That's how he came, and he became our guy. Then he started doing, Africa. He started traveling, doing Zambia. He did. There's a group down my stoop. He did. What is it called? You laugh, but it's true. All these things to solidify himself now as the African guy. Before that, Trevor did, there's this show, Tonight with Trevor Noah. I don't know if you ever saw it. I can't remember what I saw first. It's probably the stand-up, but he did Tonight with Trevor Noah, which is basically like those late night shows, interviewing South African celebrities. He said they stopped doing it because they ran out of celebrities. But it was on Mnet. I remember it was a holiday show, but it was very dope. He used to do it with your Eugene Cousins. I don't know if you remember the skit with Every Dog Has This Day with Bonang and whatever.
Yeah, I think I remember that one. Yeah.
That's where the skit is from. So the skit was part of the broadcast where they were poking fun. But so that's what I personally have tried to do. Try to use that track record to say, let me grow with my people. But where it becomes tricky now is that it's something that you have to be conscious as an artist to say, these are the realities that people start feeling a disconnect to them. So the way that I've tried to get ahead of it and what I mean by that is not get to a point where people feel they own you. So you are theirs, they are your people, but on your terms. Like, if you notice Prodigal Son, as much as it is a story about coming back, it's also a story about going back. So it's a story about coming back, but I'm not staying. Right? I'm back, but I'm not staying. Like if you see how the story is layered, it's a story about, oh, I went to the UK, this is what I found out. Right? It's really a story, the whole thing. It's a story about me being in the UK, but the way it's structured, even my observations are tabled in a way that lets you know that I'm now an outsider.
Right.
Subconsciously, because if I was to go back in Zim and I was to do another Zimbabwean comedian in Zimbabwe thing, that would be tricky because there's people that are finding about me through Prodigal Son, right? Mm-hmm. But there's people that found out about me through conspiracy theories. They stayed through, right? They now know the journey, like, oh, this guy traveled, but these people don't know.
Yeah.
So if I was to do another, these are Zimbabwean jokes, these are my realities in Zimbabwe, and then they go back and they find conspiracy theories, which is the same thing. They'll be like, oh, this is our person. But if you find this person who's half on their way out, you're like, yeah, this is my person, but I know where he's going.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a conditioning where I'm letting you guys know that let's take this international. I still want your approval, very much so, but let's not personalize this thing. So that's why there's that intentionally. So there's those things about Boris Johnson. There's those things about the royal family. There's those things about the few. Those are some of the layers that I was trying to. They're very subtle, right? But when you now, I would hope it's something that you can watch again. When you watch it again, you start to say, okay, all right, this guy is trying to almost Jedi mind us to say, I'm here and I empathize, but definitely not on the same level as somebody who's dealing with this on a day-to-day. But it's not meant to come off as a brag. You get it? It's meant to come off as almost as a I want your approval to be doing these things. Because if you remember conspiracy theories, there is a joke in there about the first time I was on a plane. The first joke in Prodigal Son is about my first time in business class.
Yeah, I caught that.
Yeah, so you start to see these. Some of them are not so subtle, but it's like there will be a time, hopefully, where because of circumstances, whether I'm doing well, where that will be the only life that but I want you to be prepared. Like this guy told us, right? This guy told us. So it's not even like, oh, he's acting brand new. He made jokes about this and we laughed. So we gave our permission to do these kind of things. So it's kind of like, that's where I don't know what the next special will be, where the level of, but I was trying to do a 50-50 thing where it's like, it's a soft goodbye. The next one that I'll do will probably be like a full-on goodbye, like, okay, guys, let's take this to the world. Because I would still want a moment with my people where it's now possibly on a national level where I'm like, we're getting together like, 3,000 people, in a room together. Let's laugh. But in this moment, it's kind of like a send-off. So that's where it comes away. I don't know whether that's something that he thought about. Probably not, because the success that he has, no one can, hypothetical or not, you can't visualize that.
Yeah.
Even he says the way that he got the Daily Show call was some random night in Dubai, where he just gets the call. So you can't visualize like, oh, I'm going to go to America and be on the Daily Show.
Yeah.
So we have an opportunity now, I feel, to learn through him. But at the same time now, it's very unfair for us as fans to say, Trevor has been in the UK. I think on and off, even before the Daily Show, he had been in the UK for 10 years. UK and US, he had been going back and forth close to 10 years. Now, since the Daily Show, it's been 6, almost 7 years now.
Yeah.
That man, like, they now call him, like when they refer to him on the news, they say South African born Trevor Noah. Because they say that for a reason. Because those realities are different. That's the level of success when they start telling you that you're South African born. This little inconvenience that we can't do anything about. We can't do anything about it, but we would say, African American Trevor Noah, it's that level of success, you can't do anything about it. You are going to feel disconnected to this person, but he's still incredible. He's still an incredible talent, and the fact that he's gotten to where he is, right? Listen, man, maybe I'm reaching here with, maybe this is a reverence thing, but the fact that Trevor Noah has gone 7 years on the Daily Show, and not once have we heard, oh, Trevor Noah is doing drugs. Not once have we heard about baby mamas or sleeping around. Not once have we heard. That's what we need to be focusing on. This man is shining a light in an extraordinary way on the African. Like, prior to Trevor Noah, it was inconceivable that somebody else other than an American, or if we round off, an British person could host late night television. Now, based on how well he's done, it's not inconceivable.
Exactly.
It has opened up the door to countless possibilities, not necessarily of replacing American television hosts, but of starting late night television shows in Africa, because you're like, there's got to be more Trevor Noahs. There's got to be, it's things like that we now need to be focusing on. Not, oh, I can't relate to him. That's a given, and my own mother can't relate to me, because we have our different realities. That's not even a success thing. That's just we don't live in the same house. How many relatives of ours that are, in Slovela or Nigrinu said, oh, I can't, we used to hang out as cousins, but I don't know him anymore. What more? Somebody who can buy a house that costs 20 million. Come on, let's be real. Somebody who hangs out with Beyonce and Jay-Z and is on a first name basis with Prince Harry and Meghan and Oprah. Somebody who's been on the New York Times bestseller list #1.
Yeah.
People, we need to, I'm always a fan of honest conversation. Like, I don't participate in in most conversations on Twitter, because I'll look and be like, man, that's dishonest. That's like people will try to simplify Trevor's success or try to say, just for somebody who watched this and as an outsider who might not understand late night television, to contextualize Trevor Noah's success. Piers Morgan, a white man, was fired on CNN. A British Caucasian was fired on CNN. What was it? Was it Piers Tonight, or what funny name was it? It was fired on CNN because of dismal numbers. Trevor has been on Comedy Central for 7 years straight. His contract was renewed for 5 more years. They don't play on late night television. If you're not doing well, you are out of there. The same time that Trevor got his new show, they gave at least 3 people new shows. I think there was Full Frontal with Samantha Bee, there was Larry Wilmore's new show, there was Jordan Klepper's new show. None of those people have shows anymore.
Yep.
Some of them left Comedy Central, left the Daily Show, but they're back now.
Yeah.
So that's just to contextualize Trevor's success, how well he's done. The fact that those people have been willing to change the format and do ABC, the fact that there's not a week that passes without him being the national political conversation, the fact that he's hosted the Grammys, the fact that he's like, come on, man, like it's not going to be 2-3 years before Trevor hosts the Oscars. The fact that he hasn't done it already is actually quite honestly a shame. You know, they're probably not doing it just out of the people that will protest to say like, oh, you guys are giving this, you know, you're propping him too much. But that's how successful that guy is. So it's a given that we are going to disconnect with him as fans. But as long as the comedy, and just from a simple comedian perspective, comedy comes from your lived experiences. Trevor's not going to joke about Cyril Ramaphosa's mishaps because he hasn't experienced Cyril Ramaphosa. He probably knows about them because he has friends that are South African. But it would be dishonest for him to come and joke about that.
Yeah.
It's actually very dishonest for us to say I'm disconnected from Trevor Noah, because Trevor is making the same jokes right now from the same context. I mean, socially, that Trevor Noah is making, that Dave Chappelle is making his jokes.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
If we are laughing at Dave Chappelle jokes, are we? What about Dave Chappelle are we relating to? What about Dave Chappelle? He's a black man from Ohio. We've never known Dave Chappelle. We didn't know him, but we laugh at this. So let's be objective.
Yeah.
If the stuff is funny, let the conversation shift to, oh, I don't enjoy his stuff anymore. It's a simple, let's be honest. The stuff is not for me anymore. I don't think it's funny anymore. I can hear that.
Yeah.
I can hear that. But to say I don't relate, I can't, come on.
Yeah. Well said. Because I've had this question in my mind, but I think you've articulated it and you've given me stuff to relate, that you have to be okay with disconnecting with people.
Yeah.
And not always being like, oh, no, I'm going to play sport. No, it's fine. It's fine. I don't relate.
It's a validation of you as a fan. It's a validation of us as a fan to get to a point where you don't relate to your favorite because they're successful, because it means you have good choice in arts. It means the stuff that you enjoyed, when you enjoyed, it's like the people that enjoyed Ed Sheeran's first album. You should feel proud that Ed Sheeran sells out 80,000 seats, because it means you saw that guy before people saw him. So it means you know good music.
Exactly.
It means you know good comedy. So that's where we really should look at it from, like, oh, I saw this guy, like you were saying, you were watching Trevor Noah in comedy clubs. It means you know good comedy. You've always had an eye. So now let's go out in the world, find another Trevor Noah, give him the same level of love and support. Let's not withdraw our support because somebody's successful. That's bad mind.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
I completely agree. And then talking about the whole sort of transitioning and wanting to go international, which you will. I will say, like, I was so happy to see you hosting Celestine Dooley's show in Leicester Square. Guys, you know what? How big a deal that is?
It's
wow.
I didn't realize how big of a deal it was until I got to, because I'd never been. And then I got there, I'd never been. So I get there, I'm like, okay, this is a different, we are a far cry from Tafara Mabukuna. We are a long way. It had the potential of overwhelming me, but it was too cold. So I remained objective. The wind blew in my face. I almost got overwhelmed, but the wind was like, wake up, but it was an incredible moment. Just seeing like how that whole street is set up, the different theaters and restaurants. It's almost like, it's like a miniature version of what I assume Times Square to be in New York. So it doesn't have the crazy billboards, but it's almost like it's a very busy street, very artistic, very cool. I can't imagine what it's like in the summer, but that's when it hit me like, yo, this is a pretty big deal. This is a pretty big deal. So I'm just glad it went well.
Yeah, how did that come about?
So Celeste came to Zim in 2018. She did a show. She came as part of Shoko Festival. I performed just before her. And afterwards she came to me, she said, man, you are dope. She just had all these crazy things to say, and she was very kind. She took me out that night, and she just kept on saying like, man, I've never, like she said, when you started speaking, I was trying to prepare, and then I had to come take us like, who the fuck is this guy? Because as comedians, it's actually a thing, right? Like before, in a terrible way, you don't want the guy coming before you to do that well. You want him to do well, but you don't want him to do that well, because it makes your job that much harder mentally, right? It just means you have, because in a weird way, comedians know how to measure laughs, right? Like decibels, if there's anything we know like, okay, that's a loud laugh. Like these people are really laughing. Okay, this is a polite laugh. Okay, this is, so she was, but the difference with her now is that she's an incredible human being. Other comedians would have seen that and be like, man, screw this little nigga. But she came and was so forthcoming with the praise. I was in awe of her when she was performing. I went into the audience to pay attention. She's an incredible performer. So for her to come out and be like, yo, man, let's get a picture. She followed me on Instagram. I followed her back. We exchanged numbers. So when I saw she had a show in Leicester, I just sent her a message. I was like, yo, can I open for you? And she's like, open. Come watch the show. Blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so she didn't know I was based here. So it ended up being this. She's incredible. And she's always been kind. So hopefully, that's how that came about. Hopefully that can help, because at some point I would love to perform in South Africa and Kenya and all these places.
And are you performing in Dubai? I saw you say something about Dubai. Or is this top secret? Or am I in your close friends, Kandoro?
No. So it's it took me I tweeted it, then I deleted it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's a thought. It's a thought that I'm hoping can materialize into an actual bike. Yeah, the plan this year is just to be here, there, everywhere. I'd love to perform in Dubai. I'd love to do something in Germany. I'd love to do something in Denmark. Denmark is Netherlands, right?
Hey, you're putting me on the spot. This is a lot of pressure.
No, Netherlands is Holland.
It's Holland, yes.
Yes,
Netherlands Denmark is its Holland. Own.
Yeah, so yeah, I would love to do something like just a quick mini European tour. I'd love to go check out the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Oh,
yeah. So I'm just trying to be here, there, everywhere. Try to do as much as I possibly can. Whatever happens. Whatever doesn't, we'll try again next year.
But yeah. please do a show in the UK.
Oh, that's a given.
Yeah,
that's a given. We just need to figure out where and when, but yeah, that's a given.
Yeah, no, do a show in the UK. But no, do you know what? I have enjoyed talking to you. You're so passionate and you're so knowledgeable. And I always enjoy when I can proper get into politics for an hour, because not a lot of people indulge me. So I'm
no, you are also knowledgeable as well. So it feels good talking to someone where you're like, oh, you were making me see things that I also was like, oh, okay, I never thought about it that way. So it ends up being a very healthy conversation in that regard. So thank you as well.
Yeah, no, and seriously, I didn't say this at the beginning, but I am serious in saying, I was like, okay, let's get Kandoro on the show, because I know that if you try to reach out to Kandoro in June, July, this guy is, and on a serious note, I want to give you your flowers.
Thank you.
Because I am such a fan. I'm a big believer in creating ecosystems, creating lanes, and, doing things, I've always talked about, and I like the fact that you talked about your journey from, I guess, speaking as somebody who is in Zimbabwe, and then not being in Zimbabwe and speaking as an observer. And I've always been a believer that those of us who are not physically at home have a right to have a view. We have a voice. Exactly. We have to speak out. So I love the fact that you're also embodying that in the art that you're doing. And am I correct in saying, this could be wrong, I do not know, I've never seen a Zimbabwean stand-up comedian before you. Am I wrong?
Oh, there are quite a few. It's just different success level.
Yeah, but I think you are probably no, okay, no, before you though. Like I think we've had actor comedians, but I don't think that comedy was an art. No?
Yeah, so no, that's what I was responding to. It's just
yeah, but
no, there are quite a few days. There's your Edgar Langvelds, your Carl Joshua Ncube, your Doc Vikelas, your Simba.
Okay.
So and then this current crop, there's pretty incredible. You have Tinaya, you have Louis the Prince. It's just Zim being Zim. There's different levels of resolute that you have to be in terms of like just following through with that dream.
Yes.
I just come from a long line of people that are very stubborn. So when I decided to do this thing, I've decided to see it through, and I can't speak to anybody else's wavelength, but I would say most of the opportunities that have come my way have come from that place where I've just been like, man, we are going to see this through. Either I'm creating my own opportunity, or I'm going to try and set myself in the conversation. And only now am I realizing that, man, I wasn't even remotely close to being as aggressive as I need to be. There's still a lot of work that needs to be, because do you know how crazy it is to be like, we had the number one podcast for how many years? 4 years straight. I sold out Reps Theater. Before that, I was going viral on Magamba TV, but that's only led to me, like, I haven't even barely scratched the surface in terms of the reach in Zim. You know, there's still people that will come across Prodigal Son and be like, why haven't I seen this guy before? There's a guy who sent me a message on Facebook. I was like, man, you got to do more in terms of publicity. And do you know how mind-boggling that is? Because I'm like, I've been going crazy. But like, that speaks to a level of, you can't grow complacent, right? Because you really haven't done. So there's still more to. So I get you when you say, oh, there's no other, because it's just good to, our media, mistakes aside, we ourselves might think, oh man, I'm grinding, but it's really nowhere near how hard we need to go. So we learn every day. It's just trying to be as aggressive, grab the opportunities that we've got, and just go on.
Yeah, no, and listen, as a creative, you inspire me. Honestly, like, I think it's just been inspiring, especially like just seeing, because migrating to a different place is not easy. Keeping the dream in a new place, in a new environment, is actually even double. It's double hard. But I'm just so inspired, because I'm like, I could be doing more. I'm like, I could be doing more. And literally, like, when I saw that thing with like at Leicester Square when you're hosting, I was like, man, this is it. I was like, this is it. And no, I honestly, like I said, I really want to give you your flowers, because you are, I think you are one of, and like I say, there's more work that we can all do. But for me, I think you're one of those people, the young people that are sort of, steering the national conversation. I mean, catch and release. Come on, Kandoro. People now just say that, like catch and release. And it's like, but that's you. You came up with that.
It's ridiculous. I do have a few moments where I'll go through my hard drive and I'll be like, man, I've had a few moments where, in a weird way, I know that whatever I'm doing works. Like the other day, somebody left a comment on my YouTube and said, man, I didn't enjoy this. I didn't enjoy this as much as I did conspiracy theories. It felt like this was a ripoff of Kevin Hart and Cat Williams. And I was like, well, I reply almost every comment there. I was like, man, that's a lie. I was like, why are you lying? First of all, I said, I actually thought, I was like, man, this is hurtful on so many levels, because it's okay for you to tell me that you didn't enjoy this, but for you to say this is the ripoff, I don't even watch Kevin Hart. If I was to copy somebody, it would be Dave Chappelle. If I was to steal jokes, it would be Dave Chappelle. I don't even watch Cat Williams. I mean, Kevin Hart, you might say, oh, I've accidentally come across, but humor me. Which bit sounded a lot like it was ripped off, and it was like, oh, that ice cream story sounded. Or to be fair to the guy, he said, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, man, if I hurt your feelings. I didn't realize. I think, again, let me say this. People need to stop this thing of commenting on people's YouTubes because they think the person won't see the comment. Don't say outlandish things for the sake of being outlandish, because we read those things and they are hurtful. So if you're going to leave a comment, be objectively don't just be unkind.
Yeah.
For the sake of being unkind. I was like, man, that Julian was like, man, to be fair to him, I was like, man, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be hateful, but that Ningrini, that ice cream story sounded. I was like, bro, there is a picture of the day that happened on my Instagram. This is not a made-up story.
Yeah.
There is a video of me telling this story on this very YouTube in 2018 at Pakarepaya.
Yeah.
The only difference is that I made it linked to some ancestors. Wow, that's the only difference. Well, do you know how outlandish or arrogant I would have to be to steal a joke from another comedian as famous as Cat Williams and still have the gall to upload that joke on YouTube? Because you can perform like a stolen joke, you can perform it live, right? Because it's restricted to the people that are there.
Yeah.
But like to still include it as part of this body of work that's going on a public platform, such as YouTube, that's a different level of arrogance. That's because that's like saying, I don't care who sees this and I don't care. Like, no one in their right mind would do that. So I just like, but then that's how I knew. I was like, on the flip side, those are pretty dope comedians. If you're saying my jokes sound like they've been, I'll take that. I'll take that as a compliment. I'll take that as a compliment. So it's those kind of identify, like just trying to see through, this forest of. Because I mean, it's cool to just dunk on things these days, but I've been fortunate enough to come across more kind people than unkind people.
Yeah,
so I'm very grateful for that.
No. Please keep doing what you're doing, and
Can't stop.
Anyone hasn't watched or listened to the podcast, please do. You have no excuse if you're avoiding the Patreon. It is now out. It's on YouTube.
Please.
You can watch it. So please make sure you watch it. And as always, Madorofia will be following. Can't wait for propaganda. And
in March.
Oh, it's not too.
No. It's very. We are actually I'm actually looking at a script right now.
Oh, okay. I need to be close to my phone then. So. No, honestly, Kandoro, I think we never sort of celebrate each other enough and give each other flowers. But I am a huge fan. Enjoy what you're doing. I'm seeing the growth, and I just think you literally are raising the flag. And like what you were saying about Trevor Noah and Daywalker, where you're like, oh, this is a South African thing. I feel like now I can send it to my friends. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a Zimbabwean comedian.
Thank you.
I absolutely love it. Standing ovation for me. And guys, again, please support. Let's and by supporting you or supporting all the artists that you support as well, and we're all rising together. So
yeah, I'd love to think that after watching Prodigal Son, I mean, even right from the start, you're like, there's 2 songs there that you're like, ooh, what is this? Let me add this to my playlist. I mean, easily you can Shazam them, just add them to your playlist. It's 3 songs in total. Please go support the boys, Pro Beats, Tanto Wavy. I would have loved to employ, I would have loved to include as much music as I possibly could, but I'm already mentally, you're always as good as your last performance. So once I try to get ahead of everything just by as soon as the Celeste show went so well. The Celeste show went so well, you are almost tempted to get inside your head, because there's people that will come to you like, man, you stole the show, man. Man. But you're like, I try to be as objective as I possibly can, and I try. I am my biggest critic in terms of and I think it helps me keep a level head, because if I didn't even record any of what happened at Celeste's show. I didn't ask anyone to record. I didn't want to record it because I knew that if I recorded the show, that's what I'll be doing for the next month. Like, oh, watch what I did. Like, man, that happened, right? I know there's video of them. I saw them recording it. I know there's video somewhere, but I didn't even ask for it because objectively, let's try pack in as many moments like this as possible. It's too early to start patting yourself on the back and saying, you know, and do you know what? And also, I felt like I didn't need any video, because do you know what Celeste told me? It's so difficult to repeat some of the things that you're told, because so difficult to speak. I find it difficult to speak about myself in third person, but the last time that I'd seen Celeste was in 2018, and we'd just been talking. She came to my dressing room on the day. She's like, man, this can only be, she's a very kind person. I cannot say that enough. Her whole demeanor, her whole brand is kindness. She's like, man, this can only be God, us being here together. It's incredible. And I honestly have been waiting for an opportunity to do this again with you ever since that time I saw you. Every guy, every Zimbabwean that's in South Africa, every time I performed them, I bought them because I asked them about you. And then she sat me down and she said, bro, you are literally, which is crazy because this is before the show. This is before the show happened. I was so sure this show was going to suck, because it's like, man, if you get flowers before the show, the only bad things can happen from here onwards. She was like, I feel like you're on that Trevor Noah path, because when you go on stage, you talk about the things that matter to us, that matter to, like, the things that you were making me think. And I've had people, like, it's not the first time that somebody has told me something like that, like, oh, you have there's a little bit of Dave Chappelle in you, or there's a little bit of Trevor Noah. But to be told this by somebody who is going to be on Netflix on Wednesday, they have no business telling you this. There is no reason for them to be kind. It does nothing for them. It's their show. You are already here. Why would it, I'm saying that to say I've been surrounded by a lot of kindness in my life. Most of the opportunities that have come to me, they have come to me out of a place where I can't even explain it. The things that are going to happen to me this year, which I hope people will get to see, I can't even explain how they happened. I can't even explain how I got in that position. It doesn't even make sense. Like, even the thing that you were saying, like being able to be in a position where you come to a foreign land and you're still doing the thing that you came here to do without doing any extra bits. I haven't had to look for a job at any point in the 2 years that I've been here. In the middle of a pandemic, there's been ups and downs, but I've been fortunate enough to still pursue my passion, because we all know how it goes the moment you start trying to balance the books. I've been in a position where people have been kind to me, so I really have no reason to not share this kindness. I really have no reason. If I have somebody who's currently on Netflix right now telling me that, oh man, you are dope, you can do this, you can, like, let's I was telling, there's thoughts that are, there's two jokes that I told Celeste in conversation. She's like, do that. Like, I just told her as a thought, like, oh, like literally in conversation, I'm trying to make her laugh. Like, she's like, do that. I was like, Celeste, this is not even a joke. It's like, no, figure it out, do that. Like, that's how, like, so I cannot extend the kindness to, you know, be it pro beats, be it whoever is doing dope stuff, be it Girl in Skies, be it, that's how I've always tried to look at my life. And I would love to think maybe that's where the kindness also comes from, where the universe is just trying to return the kindness to me. So, yeah.
Yeah, because you are walking your path.
Thank
you are not a prodigal son. You are walking your path. And I think it's testament to that when you start doing what you're supposed to be doing, things come together, because there are people whose destinies are attached. Hey, can you hear me preaching?
Yes. I can hear you preaching.
No, Kandoro, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. I hope it's been enjoyable for you, and it was important for me to kind of document this conversation so that people can come and, you know, they hear the process, they hear the sort of, you know, in addition to the behind the scenes footage that you guys will be showing out. But yeah, just really important to sort of have that. Then people can, you know, 2 years down the line, when, you know, Kandoro is doing big things, they're like, okay, this was when I was doing this interview. So no, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I'm just looking at I was very conscious of the board that we had to rub. Yeah, it's been what? Hey, almost 3 hours. Yeah, definitely somebody would have been able to make out what was behind
what was behind.
Yeah, by now they would have pierced the dots of what's
Yeah, no, like you said, it's been a while. So Kandoro, again, thank you so much, guys. Check out The Prodigal Son, and we're giving you your flowers, Kandoro.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this brilliant conversation. I appreciate you, Nat.
No, you are so welcome. So guys, like I said, we've been Girl in Skies podcast. Check us out. We're Girl in Skies all on social media. And I've been Nat. Xolie is away. She'll be back soon. Thank you guys. Bye.